a cognac company that is over 250 years young. And it all goes back to a young Englishman who back in the late 1800s traveled from Dorset to Jarnac to explore the world of cognac. Welcome to another cognac review here at Bespoke Unit. My name is Reinhard, and today we'll be tasting Hine Rare. Hello and welcome everybody to another review here at Bespoke Unit. And it's another cognac review. I'll be tasting together with you Hine Rare Cognac from Jarnac in the heart of Cognac, right in the center of the Grande Champagne region. The story of Hine began in the late 18th century when young English gentleman Thomas Hine traveled from Dorset, where he was from originally, to Cognac to learn about the favorite tipple of his father. Now, little did he know that he would be laying the foundation for one of the most well-known and most well-respected cognac houses of the world today. It's over 250 years of history that the House of Hine can put to its name. The interesting thing about the philosophy of Hine today is that first and foremost, a great cognac needs to be a great white wine. There's 3 different grape varietals that mostly make up for cognac as we know it. By far the most important one is Uni Blanc, also known as Trebbiano in Italy. And then there's Colombard and Folle Blanche. Sometimes a new crossing with the name of Folignan comes into the picture as well, but mostly Uni Blanc is responsible for what we all know and treasure as the liquid gold of cognac. The House of Hine puts a lot of emphasis and a lot of effort into producing exceptional base wines and then keeping the essence of that and translate it into exceptional eau de vie. The base material for the House of Hine comes from the 2 core regions of cognac, and that is the Grand Champagne and the Petite Champagne region. As such, Hine Rare, which is a VSOP, that means it needs to be aged for at least 4 years after distillation, is also called a Fine Champagne cognac, which means that only Grande and Petite Champagne have been used for the assemblage of this particular quality. I'm gonna pour a glass so we can get right into smelling and tasting, sampling this beautiful liquid. The bottle got this iconic and rather unique shape that is always associated with Hine Cognac. The color, as you can see, is a lovely, gorgeous, dark golden brown with a little bit of a mahogany reflection there. A very thick and oily viscosity with the legs running down in a rather slow fashion. Thick, oily already in the appearance, and it perfectly translates into the aromatic quality. It also translates into the tasting perception on the palate. So, after the appearance, after the robe, let's get right into nosing this wonderful cognac. Fresh, fruity, very elegant. I get some red apple, I get some apricots, almost like an apricot jam, thickly cooked with gorgeous pieces and chunks of fresh apricot in there. A little bit of brioche, slightly toasted with a little bit of caster sugar sprinkled on top with that caramelized sensation. a very elegant floral nuance to it as well. A little bit of chrysanthemum that I get here, also some olibanum in a very restrained and elegant way. There's a pronounced nuttiness as well, I have to say. Fresh walnuts, even green walnuts and pickled walnuts that I sense here. And towards the very end, I get a hint of spice. Not too much. It's more about the fruity essence here. It's more about the winey characteristics with a little bit of raisins, but also some fresh muscat. You feel the vibrancy. You feel the youthfulness in a very pleasant, very charming way. It's got a lot of energy. It's still bold. It's still bright. It's not tamed down by 20, 30, or probably 40 years of aging. This is a cognac that you would use primarily eau de vie in a range between 5 and 10 years of aging here. And it's roughly 20 different eau de vie that the House of Hine would assemble here. The master blender, a dear friend, Eric Forget, is in charge of always crafting these beauties, and they do an exceptional job with a very distinct, characterful, wine-focused approach and house style that is always represented and reflected in the various qualities of the cognac lineup. The nose, I have to say, is intense, it's complex, it's full, it's rich with youthfulness, energy and vibrancy. So that makes for a very impressive and really interesting first expression and experience in the olfactory perception. Now let's take a sip and see what the palate will reveal. Santé. Also on the palate, dry, crisp, focused. At the beginning is luscious, charming, with a lot of that winey character. It's also slightly musky at the beginning, not in an unpleasant way, quite the opposite. A very subdued but complex sensation. I sense that besides the winey characteristics, after a couple of moments you get some more of the astringency on the side of your palate. Not too much, just to balance off that caramelly, raisiny fruit sweetness at the beginning, the creaminess that I would call something like marzipan or a white nougat, and then you have that astringency just to put it all into perspective and add another layer to make for a rather complex tasting experience, even though this is a VSOP. And when you, for example, taste the Hine XO in comparison to that, you see the evolution, you see the uptick in complexity. But I always find it mesmerizing and superbly interesting that Hine, already with the VSOP, offers such a lot of depth and character with its cognac. Great balance, great length, it's quite lingering, and for minutes and minutes you will get different sensations. There's some orchards in there, some sweet leather, and all sort of woven into that raisiny, nutmeg, muscat, wine character framework that always speaks Hine and bears the signature of this cognac house. Let's take another sip. As I said, the freshness is the first sensation that hits your tongue. Apricot, tropical fruit notes even. I get a little bit of banana. There is a wonderful passion fruit sweetness with also the acidic component that you would associate with passion fruit. Then it moves into the nutty element where I get some hazelnut cream. I get a little bit of the nougat again, It makes for a very creamy, textured, mellow mouthfeel that is very pleasant. And only in the very back, the spices and the astringency start to creep into the overall picture to add another dimension. As a matter of fact, the Hine Rare VSOP is a perfectly versatile cognac. You could easily drink this with a splash of tonic water, with ginger ale, or any filler and mixer of your choice. It will make for a very refreshing summer tipple. You could certainly just pour it on ice, maybe with an orange zest. And of course, it's a perfect mixing cognac for all your preferred cognac cocktails. I'm a huge fan of a classic Harvard cocktail, which is pretty much like a Manhattan, but with cognac as a base. So you could take the Hine Rare, a great red vermouth, maybe a dash of Angostura bitters stirred down. A classic Sazerac or a Vieux Carré, classic from New Orleans, would also be amazing with Hine Rare as a base spirit. And even if you would like to do something like an old-fashioned or probably a Corpse Revival #1, you can't go wrong with this VSOP. I truly enjoy this with a splash of ginger ale, maybe a slice of cucumber and an orange zest as a very refreshing long drink or highball. In terms of food pairings, again, this could play so many different roles. An interesting little experiment for you there could be to take your bottle of the VSOP and put it in your freezer for a couple of hours and then serve it neat but frozen to accompany certain meal choices. Seafood, for example, goes particularly well if you have either a salmon tartare or a fresh ceviche and you pair it with an ice cold, right off the freezer, Hine Rare. It's an exceptional pairing that will enlighten your taste buds. Since Hine in general is a more mellow, winey type of cognac, I also like it to drink with certain cigars, even though you have to be careful because of the higher ABV. With this one, it's 40%, by the way. It can be a little challenging when you have a rather spicy cigar and you try to pair it with a high alcoholic beverage. But my recommendation with the Hine Rare would be to take either a very characterful Connecticut shade wrapped cigar, but it needs to have some depth in the filler composition, or a Maduro that could take a little bit of freshness and a little bit of liveliness and acidity paired with it, but it shouldn't be overly spicy or overly leathery and beefy. Again, to summarize, Hine Rare, great VSOP, very versatile, a rather creamy, elegant, winey type of cognac given to the house style and the history and the way things work over at Hine. But you should try it, check it out, have it neat first. I always recommend trying a cognac or any type of spirit neat first, so you can then see how you could manufacture it into an exceptional cocktail, highball, long drink with certain foods, with certain cigars, and the right ambience and atmosphere. And with that, I'll leave it to you. I'll see you next time here at Bespoke Unit. Pour some good cognac in the meantime, and I can't wait to see you on the next review here on our channel. Until then, with my very best wishes and spirits.